this is Father Ken Lau, and welcome to the new episode of the Saint Joseph series. In this episode, I would like to share with you Saint Joseph being the guardian of the bread of life. Many of you are familiar with the story in Genesis about the sons of Jacob who sold their brother into slavery. That brother was Joseph, and the owner took Joseph to Egypt, and while in Egypt, Pharaoh adopted Joseph and put him in charge of the granary. Egypt at that time was known as the breadbasket of the world. Though Joseph's brothers had sold him into slavery, God had a wonderful plan. There was a famine that broke out in Egypt and also the surrounding territories. And because of the short supply of food, Pharaoh asked his people to go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you. That's in Genesis chapter 41, verse 55. And the famine became so extreme that Joseph's own brothers journeyed to Egypt in search of food. While they were there before Joseph, they did not realize that they were standing in the presence of their own brother. To make a long story short, Joseph hid his identity but was filled with kindness and mercy towards his brothers. He provided grain for them, filling their sacks so they could take back plenty to their father Israel. Eventually, Joseph revealed his identity to them and extended forgiveness to his brothers. Thanks to Joseph and his role as the keeper of the grain, countless lives were saved from famine and death. Okay, so I'm reading this from The Consecration to Saint Joseph by Father Don Calloway. So the story related in the Old Testament is a prefigurement of a much greater Joseph who would bring his son, the bread from heaven, to safety in Egypt. Saint Joseph safeguarded a food capable of saving the entire world. Saint Joseph, our spiritual father, is much greater than the Joseph of the Old Testament. Our Joseph was the keeper of the bread from heaven. His desire in heaven is that all of his children consume the bread of everlasting life. So without Joseph, we would not have the living bread of the Eucharist. Mary needed the dough in her sacred womb. Saint Joseph lovingly preserved the bread in Egypt. He continues to guard and preserve the bread of life in every tabernacle in the world. Saint Joseph made it possible for all his children to receive the bread of everlasting life. As we know today, there's a worldwide spiritual and moral famine on the earth. Souls are dying because of a lack of spiritual nourishment. Hearts are broken. Marriages are ruined. Lives are destroyed. Children are murdered in the womb. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, what are we to do? To whom can we go to find nourishment for our souls? Again, it's the same, just like Pharaoh said to his people. God is telling us, go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you. God bless. The living saint, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, we trust in you.